With the Edge of Fate expansion finally releasing the Destiny 2, there have been some massive changes to how hunter exotics work. Mainly, one of those being the Kepri Sting exotic gauntlets for hunters. Now, when I tell you that this thing is absolutely busted now after the changes, even though honestly the changes in the patch notes look like nerfs, you think I'm lying. Now, how about I show you the build? So first, we'll start off with just pure Void. I'm going to go for the Deadfall Super, Gambler's Dodge for that instant melee regeneration, obviously Snare Bomb. Now for the grenades, it doesn't totally matter what you guys do here. I personally went for a Magnetic Grenade just because of the damage that it puts out. Vortex Grenade is also really good, but for the weapon that I'm going to suggest later for this build, Suppressor Nade is going to be a very viable option, and you'll see why in just a moment. Now for the aspects, I went personally with Stylus Executioner. It's nice because when you weaken a target, it puts you invisibility. It's great. And then on the Prowl, so when you kill a marked target, it not only grants that invisibility cloud, and when you run into it, you'll turn invisible, it also grants a weakening buff because this thing acts like another snare bomb. So essentially, you'll be having 2 snare bombs on the field with this active. Now on to the fragments. I went with Echo of Obscurity for Finisher Final Blows granting invisibility. Echo of Starvation, picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power, grants Devour. Echo of Persistence, Void buffs applied to you, Invisibility, Overshield, or Devour have increased duration. Echo of Undermining, your Void Grenades weaken targets. And Echo of Harvest, good god. Defending weakened targets creates an Orb of Power and a Void Breach. Now, obviously for our exotic armor of choice this time, it's going to be the Kepri Sting exotic gauntlets for hunters. This, obviously the Touch of Venom perk, defeating a weakened target releases a burst of weakening smoke and refunds smoke bomb energy. Now on to the armor perks itself. For the helmet, I went with a copy of Hands On, obviously because we're going to be using our melee for the final one here. Special Ammo Finder, so that in case for one of the weapon options I'm going to be showing off, this will be very viable. Harmonic Siphon for any Void weapons, because honestly Void weapons are going to be the staple for this build, so I would recommend using a Void Siphon. For the gauntlets, I went for a copy of Impact Induction, Momentum Transfer, and Heavy Handed, obviously focusing more around the melee side of things. For the chest piece, I went with just any basic solar resistances or any resistances like that are nice. Obviously I went with Concussive Dampener, but obviously if you're running a special weapon or a heavy Void weapon, Void Ammo Generation Finders are not viable. For the boots, I went with a copy of Absolution, Invigoration, and Recuperation for a little bit extra health upon Orb and Void Breach pickup. For the class item, I went with Outreach, Distribution, and Reaper. For the stats, I'm mainly focused around melee, obviously because this is a melee-centric build, but you can also, if you want secondary perks, you can go with Health for another one. That's another good one because survivability is very key with this build. Grenade would also be a very good option here as well as Super, just because of that weakening effect, and also we can just tether everything and make it a lot easier for ad control. Now on to the weapons. I personally think Collective Obligation is probably the best for this build, just because of the amount of spread you can do with this thing, and I will show it off right now. So with Collective Obligation, if you decide to weaken a target with your Snare Bomb, not only will that weaken them, and if you kill that target, you now get the Void Leech charged buff for this gun. If you activate that, you're now going to spread weaken to other targets, meaning that we can get that Snare Bomb back extremely quick. Hey there, post-editing Zaya here. So I know how I stated at the beginning that Suppressor Grenade would benefit one of the guns that I had recommended for this build. Collective Obligation will directly benefit also Suppressor Grenades, because if you use a Suppressor Grenade, you not only will have the weakening effect, but you will also have the suppression effect if you kill that same target that is also suppressed by the Suppressor Grenade. I meant to state that in this video, but I completely forgot. And I'm correcting that by this. Alright, back to the build. Watch for this, for instance. See how quickly that came back? Another good option I went for was the Berry Bloodline exotic sidearm that you get from the Warlord's Ruined Dungeon. Now, just because of this it's because of the weapon's catalyst. Defeating targets with this weapon while Devour is active grants Weaken. So, you can weaken targets if you defeat a target that has, well, you have Devour active. And honestly, on Void, you're going to have Devour up constantly. Another weapon I went for was the Acquire 1 exotic that you get from the Encore mission. This is still farmable, so you can still attain the perks and stuff like that. I personally just didn't want to level it up, so that's why it has assistance on it. But Onslaught Retrofit and also the Destabilizing Ground Retrofit is very viable for Acquire 1, especially for that Adler control. One final weapon you could also use is the 3rd iteration scout rifle that came with the new Edge of Fate expansion in the battle pass itself. Another notable exotic was obviously the Graviton Lance Pulse Rifle, or the Slayer's Fang shotgun that you get from the Kel's Fall mission. If you really wanted to get creative, you could also use the Edge of Action Glaive that you get from the Enclave over on Mars. Now then, I hope you guys enjoyed this build video. I will also be leaving a dim link down in the description, so in case you guys don't want to listen to me yap and you just want to copy the build, go right ahead. It's going to be right there in the description for you guys. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will hopefully be back with more build videos in the future. Deuces, guys. Have a great one. Hey there, post-editing Zaya here. I know how I stated in the beginning that using a suppressor nade would also benefit a certain weapon that I'd be using for this build. Yeah, so suppressor nades will also help because Collective Obligation takes the... I don't know what the fuck that was.